Hey everyone, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Mindy Banks. I'm the Flip Flop Chef. Today I'm going to show you how to make my mom's chicken pot pie recipe. It is delicious and it's really simple to put together. So I hope you'll enjoy this video and I hope you'll try it at home. If this is the first video that you're watching of mine, please hit the subscribe button while you're here and also go to theflipflopchef.com and click the button at the top of the page. You'll have access to thousands of recipes in my recipe community and a weekly giveaway. So let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I have to show you guys, my mom gave me this, it's called My Keepsake Recipes, a personal collection of meals, memories, and traditions. So my mom gave me this cookbook, I think around 2000, and it is truly something that I treasure, and you'll see some of the pages are falling out, and so I love it because I have her recipes that she made as when I was a kid. This is the recipes that I grew up on, and I love making them in my own kitchen and for my own family. So I would love to hear about recipes that your mom or your family has shared with you and passed down for you to share with others. So I'm going to be using her cookbook as a cheat sheet today, but this recipe is so easy to make, you guys, especially if you're doing a little bit of planning ahead. So I want to talk to you first about how you can prep your chicken and have enough chicken for the week for all different kinds of recipes. So I have about 2 cups of cooked chicken that I've shredded in this prep bowl here, but I want to tell you how I made that. So yesterday I took about 12 pounds, that doesn't sound right, maybe about 10 pounds. It was a lot of chicken. It filled my pressure cooker almost to that full mark. I put about about a cup of water in the bottom. I threw all those chicken breasts in there and I put it on the custom setting. You could use the chicken or poultry setting on the pressure cooker if you prefer. I tend to use custom for most everything because it's a high pressure and most things that I cook are high, and so it's just easy for me to just use the custom setting. But for about 20 to 22 minutes, and I can cook all of that chicken at one time. When it's done, I let it cool. After the pressure has been released, I take the lid off and I take the pot out of the pressure cooker and just let it cool for about 5 minutes, just long enough for all that steam to kind of settle a little bit and not to be so hot. And I take our salad choppers and I chop that chicken right in the broth so that it actually, it kind of keeps that chicken extra moist. I do take out all of the chicken and discard the broth, but I like to chop it in the broth because it actually just makes it even extra juicy. And then I can use that chicken however I want for casseroles or chicken salad, whatever it might be. And if you don't want it all chopped up, you can take some tongs and take a couple of those chicken breasts out if you want to keep them whole. But I usually just chop it all up, and that way I can use it in anything that I like. So that's how I've got my chicken here. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer this into my classic batter bowl. This is a 2-quart batter bowl, and our prep bowls are basically smaller versions of these. They all come with lids. They're tempered glass, so you can even cook with them in the oven if you like. Dishwasher safe. The lids, of course, don't put them in the oven, but I do love that these have these great storage lids. Now, my mom's recipe calls for 1 can of cream of chicken soup and 1 can cream of potato soup. I almost never have cream of anything in my pantry, and so I tend to just make my own cream of chicken soup because I always have chicken broth, I always have flour, always have salt and pepper, and so it's just real easy for me to throw it together on the stovetop. So instead of using potato soup, it's basically just like a can of cream of chicken and a can, or 2 cans of cream of chicken instead of 1 of each. So I'm going to use most of this. It's a little more than I needed. So a can of cream of chicken soup is about 10 ounces, or 10 and a half, I think is what it is. So we're needing about 21 ounces of liquid. I may end up add a little bit more, but we'll guesstimate as we go. If you don't know me yet, if you haven't watched my videos, I do measure a lot with my heart. And so if you see me just throwing things in there or adding more ingredients, it's just because I know that it's okay to do that. And that's actually something that I really want to teach other people to do, is when you're cooking, you don't have to follow a recipe to the T. You can make substitutions, you can make alterations to your own taste or what you have in your pantry or your refrigerator. So if you're missing one ingredient, don't just throw in the towel, see what maybe you could substitute it for. So we are gonna add a 1/2 cup of milk, and I'm using whole milk because I have it, but normally we usually have 1% milk, and that would be fine as well. And then I'm gonna put a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, and I actually grind these peppercorns in my deluxe cooking blender, so that's how I get this pepper, and I love doing it that way. Now my mom's recipe, I'm telling you what her recipe is, and then I'm also gonna tell you the differences in mine. So my mom adds a half a teaspoon of ground thyme and 1 teaspoon of minced onion. So I have this thyme and onion rub from Pampered Chef. This was an exclusive seasoning. So depending on when you watch this video, it may or may not be available. But I'm gonna just do 1.5 teaspoons of the thyme and onion rub. And so just scoop this out. That's a half a tablespoon, by the way, so I can measure that 1.5 teaspoon at the same time. Now this little jar, I got it from IKEA. They come in like a pack of 4. I like those for when I take my Pampered Chef Taste Buds subscription pouches. If I don't want to keep something in a pouch, I can transfer it into the jar, and it is a nice, easy way to store it. And I do have one of those little silicone packs. See if I can get it out of here and show you. Well, I might not be able to get it. Yep, I can. So this little silica pack, I just toss that in there, and it keeps the seasonings from clumping. I get those on Amazon. I can share the link with you if you're interested. The last thing we need to do is drain our vegetables. So I'm going to use a retired Pampered Chef product because it's what I love. This is our Easy Read measuring colander. So if you don't have this, I'm sorry, I can't sell it to you, but if you do have it, I know you love it and you're going to tell me about it in the chat. I'm going to take a can of mixed vegetables, and to use our can opener, you attach it like this, right on the top. And I like to start at the front of the can so that I know when I've gone all the way around. So you twist, 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 twist. And when you bypass your starting point, you will feel the tension release. But just in case you don't, you can always look at where you started and know that you've gone all the way around. Now I've gone all the way around. I'm going to turn counterclockwise, and that releases the can from the can opener. And I'm going to take my can opener. There's a button on this side. So you press that button, and on this side, it activates this little claw. So I can peel this lid off and toss it in the garbage. There's no jagged edge on the lid or on the can. I'm going to drain this right over my sink here. And this does have potatoes in it, so we're still getting that potato taste even though I didn't use the cream of potato soup. So we're going to just toss that in here. And then I'm going to give this a nice mix. And I'm not going to add any more of that cream of chicken soup that I had homemade. My homemade is going to sometimes be a little bit wetter, doesn't congeal quite the same as store-bought, and so I don't want this to be too wet, but I think this is going to be perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to transfer this over to this pie plate. I'm hoping this is going to fit in this pie plate. I haven't made it in this one before, but we're going to find out together. If you wanted to do a double crust, you could. Oh yeah, this is going to be perfect. I'm so excited because I wanted to use this pie plate. It's so pretty. It's from Pampered Chef. It's part of our stoneware. Oops, trying to spread the chicken, not the juice. So kind of just get this evenly distributed in there. And then we're going to roll out our pie crust and get that on the top. I'm going to grab a paper towel and just dry off my rim here. Got it a little bit wet. Slide this aside. You could cook it without a crust too if you like. I'm even guilty of putting 2 crusts. So I like to put 1 crust on the bottom and 1 crust on the top. But we're gonna just do 1 crust. And my mom makes her pie crust from scratch. I do cheat and I buy the pre-made pie crust. Now this is a half of a box. There are 2 that come in this package, but I'm only using 1 for this recipe. So let me grab my... All right, if you haven't seen these, this is the bag clip and slicer. It's pretty cool. So if I wanted to hook this on a bag of chips to hold it closed, I could do that. But there's another cool thing on here where you can actually cut your packages open. How cool is that? So before I dump this out on this mat, which I love this mat from Pampered Chef, and I'm gonna sprinkle this with some flour, just like this. This is our powdered sugar shaker. I have one that has powdered sugar, one that has flour, so I got these labels on Amazon, which I can give you a link for that too. And it just shows which one is flour and which one is powdered sugar. And it's important, but it's also important to read them. My family, a couple months ago, I made donut holes, and they thought they were shaking powdered sugar on their donut holes, but in fact, they were shaking flour on them. So later on I said, did y'all know that you were using flour instead of powdered sugar? And they were like, that's why it didn't taste very good this time. So it wasn't me, it was them. All right, so this is sat out for about 20 or 30 minutes, just long enough to come to room temperature. If you don't let this come to room temperature, it is going to stick together and it's just gonna break apart. So it's really important that you make sure that you let this come to room temperature. I just wanna roll this just a little bit, just to smooth it out. This is our tapered rolling pin here, and I'm going to smooth that out, and then I'm going to transfer it to the top of our pie. So I'm just going to, let's see, I might make a mess on here, but it'll be okay. And then we're going to just place this over the top. Making a pretty crust is not my specialty, but I am going to give it my best shot. I will say that when you use two crusts, it's easier to make a pretty edge because you can kind of pinch the two crusts together. So I'm just going to sort of press this down. See, I'm doing a terrible job. My mom makes beautiful, beautiful pie crusts, but I am of the belief that what it tastes like is so much more important than what it looks like. So who else is with me on that? All right, so I will have this recipe for you guys in my recipe community. I'm not baking this right now because this is in the morning, and we're gonna have this for dinner tonight. So I will put it in the fridge, and I will bake this later on, and I will post pictures. Hopefully I will remember to take those pictures for you and post it in my recipe community, which you can find at theflipflopchef.com. It's actually where you can find all of my recipes. But before we bake this, you definitely want to poke some holes in it just to vent this a little bit. So I'm just going to go across like this. And I will tell you, my mom, she has this cute little chicken or a hen cookie cutter, and it's so cute. She always saved a little bit of pie crust, and she would cut out the little chicken and she would put it in the middle. So if you're making this to freeze and you're not sure if you're making multiple kinds, like maybe you have a peach pie and a chicken pot pie, and you want to make sure you know which the difference is, you could always take a cookie cutter, cut out a piece of extra crust with a chicken, or if you have another way of marking it, you could do that. So that's just something fun. My mom made everything fun, and so Mom, I hope you watch this, and I hope you enjoy it, and thanks for this recipe. Keith especially will be excited to eat this later on. So tell me if you make this. Let me know if I can help you with anything from Pampered Chef. Don't forget to go to my recipe community at theflipflopchef.com and reach out anytime. I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye, everyone.